All right, good morning, guys. Live stream should be starting up right now. We have week 3 main slate to talk about. Obviously, a lot of games to go over. But yeah, in the live stream, we'll be doing a general kind of Q&A. Again, I can talk about a lot of different teams here. We can go over some injury news. So let's just talk about the big ones as of right now as it stands. So Dalvin Cook not expected to play, appears unlikely to play. Obviously, that changes some things, right? Cook was going to be a guy earlier in the week that was going to be probably a pretty popular play. Now he's most likely not playing, which makes Alexander Mattison a guy that is going to get, I think, a decent amount of ownership in both formats. He's only 6K, so he should kind of be the bell cow back. Also, Minnesota called up Amir Abdullah, so those would be the two available running backs there for the Vikings. Let's see. So that was one big piece of news. The other, DeAndre Hopkins is listed as active. He was dealing with a rib injury. He didn't practice all week, but looks like he's going to kind of tough it out. Now, this kind of makes him appealing, in my opinion, for GPPs because, just got the active, about an hour before lock. Everyone's concerned about the injury. You're going to get Hopkins at pretty low ownership against this Jacksonville Jags defense. I think that makes some sense, again, for tournaments. Let's see. What else were we waiting for? Oh, Henderson. So Darrell Henderson isn't expected to play for the Rams. So Sony Michel most likely going to take the lead back role there. He's relatively cheap, right? He's only, 4.6K. So I think he is viable even against a good defense. Then we got news. Yeah, Swift is active. Again, this was definitely an injury slate. We had a lot of guys that we were waiting on. Galladay, this is one I would stay away from for DFS purposes. Looks like he's expected to play, but his snaps might be limited. That's if we get to a situation where snaps going to be limited, I just kind of stay away. I believe Hollywood Brown is active as well. Yeah, I wasn't super concerned there about his status. Again, T. Higgins doubtful. I think that is basically it for the news as far as the major news. So. Yeah, guys, if you're just coming in, if you could, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Got the Nitro Brew ready for a long day of football. And, yeah, let's get to some questions. So, let's do it, guys. Morning, Samuel, what's up? Patrick, how's it going, man? You said Goff has to be the play today, right? Well, you're going to give him a super low ownership. I mean, basically, anyone on the Lions... anyone on the passing attack really is viable for tournaments because the Lions almost every single game are going to be playing from behind. So, yeah, Jared Goff's cheap. He's going to be super low owned. It's not something I love. Obviously, you got some cheap plays around that around Goff I think make a little bit more sense. Maybe a Fields has a lot of rushing upside, maybe a Daniel Jones. But if you feel really good about Goff, go for it. Boyd or Mixon? Mixon's a little bit tough to prioritize. 6'3". He's at a price range, right, where you have guys that are going to get a good amount of ownership, right? Saquon's going to be popular. Madison's going to be popular. I think Austin Eckler gets some ownership. So Mixon's a guy that's going to kind of fly under the radar. I don't love the matchup, but the positive here obviously is there's really no competition for touches. And then you said, Tyler Boyd too. Yeah, Boyd at 4.7 is viable. No T. Higgins. I think it's a slight bump to Boyd. So I guess, just saying one versus the other, looking at price, I think I'd rather have Boyd. Rakan, how's it going, man? Morning, Terrell. Justin, how's it going? Tommy, what's up? Jag stack with D-Hop. So I guess I'll get to that right now because that is a stack I really, really like. And I don't think it is going to be super popular today, which makes me like it even more. Cardinals, Jags. Let me get my little sales pitch here, okay? I don't think either defense is great. Obviously, the Jags defense is awful, okay? Neither team likes to run the ball, right? Arizona spreads it out 4 wide. And Jacksonville is going to be playing behind almost every single game. They've abandoned the run first couple weeks. Again, Arizona doesn't like running the ball either. So both teams going to air it out. Neither defense great. A lot of playmakers on both sides. I mean, the Jags have some good wide receivers. I think this game is very much going overlooked. And I've said it every week. I mean, Kyler Murray, I love him once again. And it's crazy. The ownership's going to be low on him for a third straight week. So there's my little sales pitch. Both teams going to air it out. Neither defense I don't think is great. It's still above 50 over under. Yeah, I like that. You can go the Jag stack or you can go the Cardinal stack. Either way, Hopkins going to be super, super low owned. I think that's a great stack. Yeah, that's a good point. Saquon's backup inactive, Devontae Booker. So it's only him and Gary Brightwell. So if you're concerned about Saquon, that news should make you feel pretty good, right? There's only 2 backs active for the Giants. So expect Saquon to get a pretty hefty workload, right? He played a majority of the game last week. So yeah, obviously Saquon's a guy that's going to look pretty good. Let's see. Guys having a hard time picking running back this week. Herbert stack seems pretty concentrated. How far can we punt tight end? Farrell, tight end 1, and high total game Komet. I like the Herbert stack. I agree. Target share pretty condensed. You got Eckler out of the backfield, the 2 main wide receivers, and Allen and Mike Williams. As far as punting tight end, it's not something I've really been liking doing last couple of years. I just think top 5 to tight ends have way more upsides. Like for me, I'm not really looking to punt tight end. Hopkins playing through rib or LaVisca. Yeah, so like Hopkins still is a risk, right? Because obviously he's playing through the rib injury. If he falls weird on it, they could play it safe and take him out for the game. So it's still a pretty big risk. I think the reason you get to him obviously is ownership. And LaVisca, I think, is another guy going a little bit overlooked. He's going to play a majority of the game. The targets, like he's getting not running deep routes, but 7 targets is pretty good, right? And he's pretty cheap. So I think he's another kind of sneaky value play that's going under the radar. I just think that game in general is going very overlooked. I'm a little bit worried about James White. I don't necessarily trust that he's going to be or get the amount of work they did last game. He played like 60% of the snaps. This game in general is going to be kind of ugly. Saints, Patriots, 2 relatively solid defenses. It's like low 40s in the over/under. I don't love the James White play. Obviously, he's competing for touches with Damian Harris. J.J. Taylor could get mixed into. We know historically the Patriots like running a kind of a committee backfield. So, I just think White's going to be overowned this week, so I would rather go elsewhere. Denver's wide receivers. That game's another kind of just Denver and the Jets. Where are we at? So, Courtland Sutton obviously had the big week last week. He's probably the guy that has the most upside. Patrick, Hamler, both fine. Just another kind of ugly game. I don't love it. Keenan Allen and Damian Harris or Eckler and Claypool. That's a tough one. I think I'll go Eckler and Claypool just because I'm not in love with Damian Harris. Kind of touchdown dependent, right? Not a guy that's going to be involved in the passing down work. So really, he either has to break out a couple long runs or has to get in the end zone to pay off the salary. So, yeah, I think I would go that second one. Thoughts on Lamar? I don't know if Lamar is going to be super popular this week. They still have the Q tag on him. He's active. Not worried about it at all. He's a guy that can go get you close to 100 yards in the ground. So I think he's safe option. The issue is stacking. I don't necessarily know if I would want to stack someone with Lamar. You could go Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, or you could just play naked Lamar Jackson, which I do think is viable. So yeah, I think Lamar is a good play for sure. Really been looking to spend it more on quarterback as well last couple of years, as I've talked about in recent videos. Van Jefferson or Osborne is a punt play. I think it's got to be Osborne. I'm more confident with the target share. I'm more confident with his role right now. Minnesota is now a 3 wide receiver team, right? They're no longer 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. Osborne's going to play majority of the game. That's a high total game. I think I'd rather go there. Let's see. What do we got? Hockenson. So Hockenson looks great, right? I think he's going to be the only downside of Hockenson, I think, is the ownership, right? He's going to be probably the highest owned tight end or right up there with one of the highest owned tight end plays of the day. 9 targets. Again, the Lions, they're going to be playing from behind most likely. I'm not worried about Baltimore on the defensive side. So, yeah, Hockenson looks great, right? Probably an optimal play. Again, the downside is ownership. I think he's going to be one of the more popular plays of the slate. You see the Baltimore defense illness. Yeah, they have a lot of guys out. Yeah, I did see that. They've already been banged up and now some illnesses. Yeah, I did see that. I agree, Deshaun. No one is talking about Calvin Ridley. Great point. Another guy I'm pretty high on this week. 7K, he just seems to be lost in the mix of wide receiver, right? So, like, the kind of the mid-range wide receivers think are going to be pretty popular, right? Kupp's going to get ownership, Keenan Allen. Godwin's going to be very popular. You can go on to Robert Woods. There's a lot of guys here that are going to be popular and getting a lot of ownership. No one's really talking about Calvin Ridley that I've seen or I've heard. 8-10 targets. I've talked about this game a couple times now, but like neither defense is great. I think this game could shoot out. I do. I think Ridley is going very overlooked. So I agree. I like that play a lot. Saquon or Madison's a good question, right? Because both guys are going to be relatively popular. I'll say Saquon, but like definitely two really good plays. Sermon, OBJ, Galladay, Osborne, Gaskin, pick 3 for PPR. Okay, so that's just like fantasy in general, right? Because obviously Sermon's playing tonight. I'd probably stay away. I don't think I play Galladay. I'm just worried about his role right now, limited snaps. So probably for me would be Sermon, OBJ, Osborne. Just because that like Miami's kind of running a committee backfield right now. I don't love that. So like Clyde is hard to ignore right at that price point, 4.8K. It's just too cheap. If he was priced as he should be, which would probably be like 5 to 6K, no one would really be talking about him. The reason he's going to be a pretty popular play is the price. Now, it's not like his role is diminished, right? If he was losing snaps to Darrell Williams or Jerick McKinnon, then I would be concerned. He's still playing like 70, 80% of the snaps. So like, I think he's a nice buy low. Viking stack with Lockett bring back. Yeah, that's a high total game. I like it. You know, which Seattle receiver is going to be? It's always a coin flip for me, right? With Lockett versus Metcalf. It's been Lockett the first couple weeks. Who knows? It could be Lockett again. But that one's always just a toss-up. Guys, if you're just coming in, again, if you could, hit that like button. Would really appreciate it. I'll be live for another 30 minutes or so. We're already at 140 or so viewers. Appreciate you guys. Gronk or Logan Thomas? Probably Gronk. Even though I don't love Gronk, it's just because that game is projected to be a shootout. Madison on DK, so tough price, like RB1 already. But the thing is, like, he's going to step into a role where he's going to be like the bell cow back, right? Minnesota is not a team that likes running committees. Like, we've seen it when Cook has been out last couple of years, and Madison steps in and immediately becomes like a really good play. Involved in the passing game, high total game, going to play majority of snaps. Yeah, he's priced up from a backup, but still, I think that price looks good. I agree. There's a lot of good mid-range plays. A lot. Osborne, Galladay. What do you mean? Galladay is just a guy I'm worried about today with possibly playing limited snaps. Dawson Rondo, more 5K. I wish he was playing more snaps, but like when he's out there, he is getting the ball, right? He played actually just under 50% of snaps and had 7 catches and 8 targets for 100 yards. So the price did jump on him. That's the concern. I'm curious to see what the snap count is. Like, is he going to take away more snaps from Christian Kirk? Is he going to take away some snaps from AJ Green? I think he should be playing, just as many snaps like DeAndre Hopkins, but maybe there's kind of easing him into it. 5K, I think more of a tournament play just because of the snaps. Again, though, he is getting targeted when he's out there. Deacon, all seriousness, how do you feel about loading up in Atlanta in your game? I like that game as a stack. I do. Again, both defenses are not great. You have some, relatively underpriced guys, I think, on both sides of the ball. So I think that makes some sense. Scotty Miller viable? Yeah, I would assume he gets a lot of the snaps from Antonio Brown. Right, he was playing the slot wide receiver role before Antonio came to Tampa Bay. So my assumption is it's going to be Scotty Miller. Now, you never really know with Bruce Arians. He's known to troll DFS players. Tyler Johnson could be a guy that gets a little bit more work too. But my guess is that Scotty Miller does get a majority of those snaps. So makes him for sure in play. Sermon or Gaskin? Probably Sermon, and just because the 49ers have no other backs, So like I assume, again, that's in the late game obviously, but I assume he's going to get a majority of those touches. Love the Jags idea, but the pass percentage so diffuse for Jags, too much guessing. It's just, again, that game, both teams like throwing the ball. So like I think it makes a good game stack. Everyone's always sleeping on Kyler. They always are. Always rushing upside too. What's not to like there, guys? I need help. Should I start Pollard or James Robinson? My season-long Robinson's been pissing me off this year, SMH. Probably is Robinson still, but that is pretty close. Spend up or mid-range for running back? Kind of depends. I mean, what's the ownership going to be on Derrick Henry? I think he'll be relatively popular after that last game, but there's not a lot of spend-up running backs, right? I think the sweet spot is probably this like 6K range where a lot of the ownership is going to be. So that's probably where you want to go for more of an optimal build. Do you have to play someone from Jags team to stack with Murray and Hopkins, or no? You don't have to. Like you don't have to bring it back. But again, with the Jags, the positive, as I mentioned, is like they don't really run the ball. So like you have 3 wide receivers going to play majority of the game, and Chark, Jones, and Chenault. They have an awful defense, which a big positive for pass catchers having a terrible defense, just because they're going to be playing from behind almost the entire game. So you don't necessarily have to, but I think there are 3 pretty clear guys. Marvin Jones going overlooked. I don't know if he's going overlooked. I don't think he's going to be super chalky, but a guy that probably gets close to double-digit targets again. Pitts, Andrews, Hockenson, I can see them all getting a touchdown. Yeah, I think all 3 of those guys look good. My guess is Hockenson gets the most ownership. James Washington, yes, another good point there. He should step into the number 3 wide receiver role here for Pittsburgh. So I expect him to play majority of the game. The issue is he's not like he's super cheap. It's not like he's a min-price, but 4K still makes him in play. I think he'll be pretty low owned as opposed to a couple other cheap wide receivers. So I think that does make him viable. Kupp, close to a must start. There's no one ever a must play, but I think Cooper Kupp is, he's going to be probably the most popular play in the slate or right up there. So for GPPs, I think you could get away from that ownership, but like Rams, pass-heavy team. Kupp's going to play majority of the game. Tampa Bay, great against the run, not so good against the pass. It's hard to not like Cooper Kupp. I think the downside, as I'll say with Hockenson, is just the ownership, right? For tournaments, he's going to be very popular. Going to be popular for sure. All right, James Robinson or Tony? Yeah, so probably lean to Robinson there. Swift or Madison? For me, it's Madison, right? Because Swift is still dealing with Jamal Williams. Madison doesn't really have competition for touches. I don't like Abdul is going to be called up, but like I don't expect him to get a ton of work. I think Madison plays majority snaps for Minnesota. He's going to be involved in the passing game. It's a high total game. I think he makes for one of the better running back plays. So Saquon go off today. I wish I could see the future, but I think he is a pretty good play, underpriced for a guy that's going to play majority of the game. Good matchup. Is Fields a chalk quarterback play today? Going to be one of the more popular plays, I think. Rushing upside is there obviously, so and he's cheap. I think he makes for a good play, and I think he'll be pretty popular. Yeah, Allen or Barkley at the flex. So I'm guessing that's Keenan Allen or Saquon. Kind of depends. I think Saquon's the cash play. Keenan Allen's the GPP play. But yeah, that's another game. The Chargers-Chiefs game I think looks really solid. Who we like that's 3K or cheaper. So like min-price wide receivers. I don't know if there's any min-price wide receivers. So you'd have to look to like a cheap tight end. And again, I'm not really looking to do that. Thoughts on Fant today? He's going to go overlooked. Ownership should be pretty low. He was one of the more popular tight end plays last week. Was solid. Did get in the end zone. 8-6 targets. Again, no Jerry Jeudy. This game in general, though, going to be kind of ugly. But I think Fant makes for a decent pivot off of some chalky tight ends in this range. I wouldn't go to Higgins. No, Osborne only played 50% of snaps last week. Is that right? He played, like 80% week 1. I could have sworn it was more than that. Let me see. Let me bring it up on my end. Wide receiver, Minnesota week 2. 60%. So, yeah, a little bit lower. But, again, slot wide receiver that is in a high total game and is cheap. Good value in Cleveland wide receiver. My issue with Cleveland wide receivers are they like running a lot of 2 tight end sets. Like they'll play 3 tight ends. They're a run first team too. So like this game also not super appealing. Like I think Chicago will run the ball a decent amount too, playing with a backup quarterback. It's probably not for me. Yeah. Swift or Tyson Williams. For me, it's Swift there. Highest owned running back? Probably the guys we've talked about, like Madison, I think will be up there. Saquon. I think CEH is going to be up there too. Morning Connor, how's it going, man? Fields naked? Yeah. I think if I'm playing Justin Fields personally, I think I would do a naked Fields. Because the reason you're playing him is the rushing upside. Not saying I don't trust him through the air. It's just, I think there's other pass catchers that have more upside than going to like an Allen Robinson or Mooney against the Browns. Yeah. So I think if I'm playing Fields in like a cash setting, I think I'd play him naked. All right, let's see. Can you play Mike Williams captain with Herbert, Keenan, Allen, Eckler? I probably wouldn't. So that you're kind of going for a full Charger stack, right, with Mike Williams, Herbert, Keenan, and Eckler. I just don't see the Chiefs' offense failing. Like, you have Hardman in there, but, like, fading Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill on the showdown, probably not for me. Higbee and Kupp or Hawkinson and Woods? That's a good question. Both look really solid. I think you can't go wrong with either. I think Higbee ownership is going to be a little bit lower than it should be after last game, but he still played 100% of the snaps. I think the targets go up this game. I guess Hawkinson and Woods, but like, yeah, I like both guys, both options a lot. Sony Michel or OBJ for my flex and PPR fantasy league. It's tough because both have a little bit of risk. Obviously, Sony Michel, I just never trust Sean McVay. But, like, there's no real competition now. So, I think Michel is probably the safer option. And then, like, OBJ, like, how many snaps does he play, right? He missed the first couple of games. They could kind of ease him into it. So, I guess Sony Michel. Just because, like, the Rams, like, they don't really have anyone else at running back. So, even though it's a bad matchup, I think Sony Michel is going to be out there a majority of the game. Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I'm probably going to take a wait and see an OBJ this week. So I'm going to pass, yeah. You think Mike Davis is in play? I think he's fine. I think I would rather play him than Patterson. Just because Patterson got 2 touchdowns last week. Mike Davis still out-snapping Patterson. He is involved in the pass game, 6 and 7 targets. I think he's a cheap play that is going a little bit overlooked. So I'm actually okay with Davis. I think, again, I would prioritize him over Patterson. Will Fuller, probably not for me in this one. Eckler or Saquon for GPP. So I think Eckler's ownership will be lower than Saquon, so give me Eckler there. Clyde and I like Eckler's upside, right? Again, Chargers, condensed target share, and he's the guy that's going to be very much involved in the pass game. Should be playing from behind, which I think is a positive for Eckler. Weird to say about a running back, but like I want the Chargers to be playing behind for Eckler, so there's just more dump-offs to him. Clyde and Keenan Allen are Swift and Woods. Probably the first one there. Barkley and Mixon with a banged-up Pittsburgh defense. It's going to be Barkley for me, yeah. Are you playing Fields? So if I was playing cash games, that's probably where I'd go. But I'm playing GPP, so like I think his ownership is going to be up. So for me, I'm not going to go there for tournaments. I think he's still fine in tournaments. I just think he's going to be pretty popular today. Marvin Jones, CH, or Godwin and Osborne. I think both look good. Probably the Godwin Osborne one though. Hopkins decoy with the rib injury. I don't think he's going to be like if he's playing, he's not going to be a decoy. Why risk that? So my assumption is he's full go, unless he obviously aggravates an injury during the game. Like this is, you could say, kind of a meaningless game against the Jags. Like the Cardinals should win. So like if he was really like struggling, then like there'd be no point to play him. So like I don't see him playing and being like a decoy. I know Kyler and Mahomes will be very underowned, but I love the mid-range build with Stafford as well. It's tough. I mean, again, The spend-up quarterbacks are going to go under-owned. Kyler, Mahomes, I'm going to say this again. The Chiefs stack is always good in GBPs. Always. It's going to be low-owned. Has insane upside. You have two clear guys to pair him with in Hill or Kelsey. You have a cheap guy you can go to in Hardman. Don't be surprised if a Chiefs stack wins the Millie Maker again. People always overthink it. I think it's going to be the same thing with the Cardinals. People are going to overlook the Cardinals stack. Let's see. Your starting Fields. Yeah, I mean, Fields is going to be pretty popular, I think. Scotty doesn't play the Scott. Yeah, he does. Scotty Miller. He plays the slot. Let's see. Where are we else? Darius Slayton of 46. I mean, his snap's going to go up with Galladay being limited. I think it's okay. Like, I don't love it. I don't hate it. Thoughts on Kirk Cousins? Going to be low-owned. High total game. I just think there's other quarterbacks in that range I prefer. Hardman or Osborne, I think is pretty much a toss-up. I think they're both good values. Should play a majority of the game, both those guys, and both in a high total game. Hockenson or Madison on FanDuel cash. Madison. Yeah, on FanDuel, I think, isn't Madison like 5K or something? That's one where you just like play him on FanDuel. Why are people still off CEH? I think because of recency bias, because he hasn't looked great the first couple weeks. Obviously, the fumble late in the game hurt too. Until I see his role declining, until I see him losing snaps, there's nothing really to be super worried about. Like, he's still going to be involved in the pass game. It's a high total game. So unless the snaps go way down in this game, I think there's a good chance he will get you there at that price. Mike Williams or Allen. For me, it's Allen there. Cephas or Barrios. Both are decent contrarian value receivers. I don't think either are going to be popular. I think Cephas is the clear number one there for Detroit. Barrios, though, with no Jameson Crowder, is getting a ton of targets. I think it would be Cephas, though, for me. Close one, though. Thoughts on Higbee? Going to be pretty low on, I think. He has not missed a snap the first couple games. So, am I concerned about one target last week? No. There's no more Gerald Everett, so it's not like they're splitting tight end touches. He's going to play the entire game. Going to be most likely a shootout. I think Higbee looks like a good value. Is it better to play a running back or wide receiver in the flex, or does it matter? Depends on what you're playing. Like, cash games, normally you want to go three running backs just because running backs a little bit of a higher floor. For GPPs, either or works, but I would say more often than not, wide receiver in the flex is where I lean in GPPs. Osborne might have been tired after breaking all those long ones. Needed to break. Yeah, exactly. Right. Because he had the long, 60-yard touchdown right away. Stafford and Fournette are Fields and Madison. I'm not really looking at Fournette. I know he's starting, so it's going to be the second one there. Evan Ingram, the only concern, obviously, he's so injury-prone, but he is active. Do they limit his snaps? We haven't got any confirmation on that, so I think for me, it's going to be wait and see there. I'll probably pass an Ingram right now. Robinson or Tony Pollard? Yeah, it's going to be Robinson. Made the mistake of drafting Robinson. It's just, the Jags have been playing from behind almost the entire game. Now, the positive I see is they're better pass-catching back. So, I think spending up will get you a more unique lineup. I think a lot of people are going the mid-range or cheap at quarterback today. Diggs Allen stack. I don't love it, but it's going to be super, super low owned. I prefer other stacks, but if that's something you feel really good about, not going to talk you off it. Osborne, James Washington for punt. Probably Osborne, but both guys definitely play for value. Who should I start at running back 2, PPR league? Damian Harris or Miles Sanders? I think Sanders. Higbee or Pitts, straight up Pitts there for me. Is Teddy Two Gloves a must start? No. I'm probably not. That game is going to be kind of ugly. Leonard Fournette, I just don't trust Bruce Arians. I don't trust it at all, so I'm going to stay away. You still like Barrios? Yeah, because Crowder's out, right? Or he's doubtful. Not expected to play. So Braxton Barrios is going to play the slot wide receiver role for the Jets. Zach Wilson's been struggling a little bit, so more dump offs to slot wide receivers. I think he is, once again, going to be a solid contrarian value play. All right, where are we at? Madison over Hockenson for cash. Obviously, Hockenson, though, is going to still be popular. Swift and Higbee or Clyde and Hawkinson, probably the second one there. Falcon stack, going to be pretty low owned. I think Ridley and Pitts are going overlooked today. Diggs, Hill, Ridley, or Kelsey. Diggs, just pick one of those guys. Kelsey. Thoughts on Evan Ingram since he's active? I'm probably going to take a wait and see. I'm a little bit worried he could get limited. So, yeah, I'll pass this week. Madison or Gibson? Madison. So many good plays today. Yeah, it feels like that's kind of the issue every week. I'm going to have a Chief stack and a backup lineup, so if they go off. Hey, I think the Chief stack is good. It's going to be low owned. Thoughts on Kirk and Moore as pairs for Murray? I think they're both fine. Obviously, the issue with Cardinals is they spread out a little bit, right? 4 wide receivers. They can dump it off to Edmonds, too. Both guys, fine plays. I'm not kind of just indifferent on each. Chris Carson, maybe. I've never feel great about him. He's cooking. The positive with Chris Carson is there's no real competition for touches, right? So, it's not like he's going to lose touches to anyone in that backfield. He is a little bit involved in the pass game. Again, a high total game. He's going to get red zone touches, too. I think he makes for a decent pivot off some of the chalky running back plays. Probably not going to get to Drake just because he's playing touches with Peyton Barber. He is the better pass-catching back, but I think there's better plays in that range. Eckler, Pitts, or Bengals. Eckler, Pitts, Bengals, or Madison, Hockenson, Broncos. Okay, so Eckler, Pitts, and Bengals, or Madison, Hockenson, Broncos, and GBP. So I think the second one's going to be a lot more popular. So give me the first one. Both, I think, have pretty similar upside. I think the Eckler, Pitts pairing will be lower owned. Mike Williams or Barkley FanDuel cash out Barkley. Woods, Pittman, or Hollywood. Woods. Spun down a defense. That's usually what I like doing just because defense is such a high variance position. Are you off James Robinson? For DFS, yeah. For season long, you can play him. Andrews bounce back. He'll be low owned. So that's a positive. Thoughts on paying down for running back and up for wide receiver quarterback in the slate? We'll get you a relatively unique, how far down, right? Because the mid-range is going to be the chalk for running back. Favorite Jag wide receiver? I think Marvin Jones probably the safest based on target share. Wilson stack, condensed target share. I like it. High total game. So the question is there just trying to guess right between Lockett and Metcalf. That's always a tough one. Madison or Mixon? Madison. Barkley or Gordon? Barkley. Best running back for 6K or less. Let's see. 6K or less. So Madison. Yeah. Running 2 lineups, one with Chief stack, one with Jag stack. I think that looks solid. Kupp or Keenan Allen? So, Kupp's probably going to be double the ownership of Keenan Allen. Do I agree with that? I actually disagree. I would rather go to Keenan Allen over Kupp for ownership, right? I think both wide receivers are very similar. Both guys going to get targeted a lot, probably double digits. Both are in high total games. If Kupp is going to be 2 times the ownership of Keenan Allen, or maybe more than that, give me Keenan Allen. Right? I think you could make the argument that Keenan Allen's actually in the better spot than Cooper Kupp. Both look good. I just think it comes down to ownership. And if Keenan Allen's going to be way lower owned, give me Keenan Allen. Is it dumb to have Robert Woods and Higbee in the same lineup? No. High total game. Both guys should play the majority of the game. I think it's fine. Edwards-Helaire, going to be popular, I think, because of the price point, but hard to ignore. Woods, Allen, or Kupp, Mike Williams? Woods, Allen for me. Mike Williams has been great first couple weeks. I don't know. I feel like you're kind of buying high in him. I don't necessarily trust it, but if he can stay healthy, obviously he's a red zone target. The issue with Mike Williams, basically his whole career, is just trying to stay on the field, really. Right? He's been dealing with a ton of injuries last few years. So I think both options are good, but I think I'd rather go the Woods-Allen stack. Or Woods-Allen. Thoughts on Juju with no Deontay? Kind of just indifferent about it. Let's see. Let's go to Pittsburgh. So, where's Pittsburgh? Here we are. Not a super high total game. Juju 6K. I personally think there's wide receivers in that range that have more upside. So indifferent. Kind of don't love it. Julio Jones or Hollywood Brown, neither stacked. Julio. Yeah. I think Julio. I don't think. So, Derrick Henry obviously had the big week last week, but the price is down on both these main wide receivers for Tennessee. So, both A.J. Brown and Julio, you're going to see one of these guys have a pretty big breakout week. I mean, obviously Julio had a pretty solid week last week, but with Derrick Henry having the big game last week, I think that's going to lower the ownership on these 2 main Tennessee wide receivers. That's another high total game. So, yeah. Do you have to pair Kyler? I don't think you necessarily have to because of the rushing upside and because of the fact that he spreads it out. So he's another guy that, like, could you play a naked Kyler Murray? I think it's fine. And the downside, obviously, is, or trying to pair him with someone is, again, going to spread it out, right? 4 wide receivers, running back, even got the tight end involved a little bit last game. So I think you could make the argument to play him solo. Can you play Daniel Jones with Saquon? Yes, I think you can. Daniel Jones is rushing upside. Saquon's involved in the passing game. I think that's fine. Rondo or Osborne? Straight up, it's going to be Rondo more for me, but taking price in consideration on this slate, going to be Osborne, right? Because you got Osborne at like 3.5 and Rondo more at 5K. You're playing Matt Ryan. Please send him to help with Ryan. The Falcons put up 6 points. The Falcons are such a frustrating team. But terrible defense. Probably going to have to air it out. Matt Ryan's always a fine tournament player, right? He's going to have a couple big games a year just from like playing from behind, right? When they're down like 30 points, he has to air it out. You're playing CH and Swift, some running backs, kind of worried about fading Henry. Derrick Henry's always a scary fade. I never feel good about fading Derrick Henry just because of what we saw last week. And with ownership going to go up, right? He was like unowned last week, like what, 5%, sub 5%, so like it didn't really kill you. But yeah, he's going to be more popular today. And it's just a scary fade because of the upside he has. And yeah, so it's always scary. Thielen or Jefferson? Thielen for the discount. A.J. Brown usually has his best games against the Colts. He's going for over 100. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going a little bit overlooked, right? Another guy that like is in this range of popular wide receivers that has a ton of upside and not getting a ton, like not a lot of people are talking about him. So I think he's a good tournament play. All right, guys. 11:27. I can stay on for a minute or two. So any last minute questions, throw them in here. If not, appreciate you guys coming and checking the live stream. As always, we had 40 likes, about 150 concurrent viewers. And Madison a must play in cash. I don't think a must play, but I think he looks like one of the better plays in cash teams. And it's just because like he's gonna be the workhorse back. I don't expect Abdullah to get a ton of work. I think he's more there for safety, as just a backup. Ridley and Pitts price is too cheap. I agree. I mean, I talked about the Falcons guys are going to go overlooked. They are. Good luck, TK. Yeah, good luck. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Let me check Twitter. Make sure we don't have like any breaking news here. I don't think we have any more news to go over. But let me just see if we got anything else. Again, Devontae Booker inactive. Talked about that in the beginning. How Saquon, you can feel pretty confident about his workload. Cool. All right. Last question here, guys. Thoughts on Pittman Jr.? Don't love the price point, but if I'm gonna play a Colts wide receiver, it's gonna be Pittman. Basically played like the entire game at 12 targets last game. If I'm gonna play wide receiver, it's him. But like again, I don't love the price point. Saquon gonna be chalk? I think so. Tyson or Swift? Swift. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out here. Good luck. Enjoy these games. Enjoy the games. And if you're interested in Sunday Night Football, we have a pretty good game tonight, Packers and 49ers. So make sure to check out the live stream later tonight. Probably be live for a good 20, 30 minutes breaking down that one, answering any questions. So good luck today, guys, and I will see you later in the Sunday Night Football show on Slate.